Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the show. Welcome back. Thanks for listening. Welcome to Third Culture Convos. What's up, Majid? How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm all right, man. I'm good.
Good, man. Good.
What are we talking about today?
Better than the teachers. The teachers, bro, the teachers.
We're talking about the
Uh,
teachers. All right.
I was scrolling through Reddit today this morning, and the two posts right after one another, different subreddits. One of them had a teacher dealing with an unruly student, a very rowdy student, and on the next post there was one about Bernie Sanders saying Americans should pay teachers at least $60,000 or more. The minimum wage for teachers should be $60,000 or more. And I just started wondering about the role of teachers in today's society.
Okay. Um, I think whenever we come to talk about teachers are it's a very loaded topic, and it's strange that it's loaded. Because I feel like the arguments usually come at me in two ways. So sort of the most like fundamental thing that I usually hear from people when it comes to teachers is like, yo, man, that's a sweet job. You got summers off, you're chilling. Like I hear that from a lot of people that argue, man, like they don't need to get paid that much, man. What you talking about? Right? Um and they down what?
I'd like to interject here just for a second. Dear viewers, dear listeners, you should know that Waseem was a teacher. He's taught English in overseas in Korea when he was in Canada for a year, right? So like
Yeah.
that's why I thought of you in particular, is because you have been a teacher, by the way. That was also why I was like, definitely want to bring this up.
Yeah. I was a teacher. I feel like once a teacher, always a teacher. I was also a counselor with kids, and so I've worked with children a lot. And so when I argue that, that's one thing that I hear. Like I'm not arguing the fact that teachers shouldn't get paid like $60,000 a year. I'm surprised that they're not. Right now, like one of the things that we do in marketing, and like I don't know if you guys, if anybody works in marketing, is one of the things you do is you do this thing called value-based pricing. So instead of pricing a thing based on the cost, you price the thing based on the value that it provides to the customer. Um, and so if it could cost me like $100 to give you a course because I have like I've already front end did all the work, and so like maybe for server costs and all that type of stuff, it'll cost me like for an online course it'll cost me $100. But uh, the let's say it's a money saving course and an investment course, and so the value of that course to you is going to be like you're going to make an extra $5,000 a year. And so I'll charge you like $2,000 instead of the $100. Or I should price the course at the value that it brings to the customer, not the cost of it. Now, I think one of the things that happens with teacher is that we don't do A or B. we don't we don't pay them as per cost, and we like where it makes sense, and we don't pay them as per value. We I think there's an artificial like keep the like this idea that you want to keep costs down on education and efficient, while at the same time you kind of bloat administrative costs, right? Um, so we're talking just about like primary, secondary school, and I'm not talking about second like universities, and I'm not talking about that right now. So the question I think most people have to ask about this is like, how important is schooling to like society and for you? Like, and what is the most important part of like the most important like people at schools? Like, is it the building? Is it the principal? Is it the janitors? Or is it the teachers? um, and based on that, I feel like you have to then think about, okay, how can I make sure? I mean, and like, How can I make sure if we as a society think that this matters, and that you need this, you need a public education, you need kids in school, because you need them, even if on a base level, on a like a purely cold economic understanding. I'm going to need workers that can work, and I need consumers so that they can work and make money and buy the things that I need to make so that my economy can keep growing. So at the very least, that's it. It's not for fulfillment. It's not. It's really just to keep the economy growing. If I took that cold like view, then I don't see why everyone isn't like, yeah, man. Like, do you think 40,000 or whatever, how much they're paid? Do you think 40,000 is enough for them to be paid to be there all day and to deal with the stresses of? I mean, even it's a service job, right? Service jobs suck in general, unless you really love doing the service, and especially to children. Like, children are ungrateful.
That's what I
Like,
was gonna say. It's a
yeah,
service, but it's still like kids, man. Like kids,
yeah,
you know?
it's worse than too. It's not just kids; it's kids and their parents, which is also
Yeah,
your
yeah.
service. Yeah, it's even worse. Like,
And there's those TikTok videos, by the way, where like teachers pay for their own supplies, usually in
oh,
the
yeah,
US,
yeah,
Canada, right?
yeah,
For student supplies. And so they've started doing TikTok drives and like, hey, can you donate to me? I have a GoFundMe. And it just shows that even at like 35, 40K, they're still paying for stationaries. And it definitely, that's the thing, it's really worrying because it does bring up fundamental um, questions about our society. No, like any rational person, I think, would be, hey, wait a minute, they're not even paid 60K and
yeah,
they're paying for their own supplies and I'm paying taxes too. So, like, who's getting the money?
yeah, yeah. Well, and okay, I think it's important to note. Okay, I'm going to give you a little brief history on like the history of public education. Okay, so the public education as we know it is a product of the industrial like model of growth, like the industrialization, and is a mirror of it, and is a reflection of it. And what do I mean by that? I mean that education, like once you started building an industrial society, you needed where I'm talking like an industry, factories, people like doing stuff. You needed to have a constant supply of labor that were intelligent enough to run the machines. And so public school was developed in order to keep that sort of flow moving forward. Um, and what it also does, and when I say it's a reflection of school of education, what I'm saying is that it's if you look at how things are organized in schools these days, it's very similar to an old school factory. There's like bells to tell you when to start and stop. The most important uh, uh, there's a date of production. So what connects all the kids are their ages and not like their interests. So like, if you were produced in 1985, then your date of production is XYZ, and that's what puts everybody together and moves them along the way. And so it is very much a conveyor belt of development. So that's I think like where it starts, and that's sort of like the core. As models have changed, and as technology has kind of entered into all the fields, the requirements of the graduates in the economy has changed. So now you don't necessarily need more workers to like run the machine, because a robot will do that same thing way more predictably and way cheaper than any person can do it. And so education has evolved through time, but has had to evolve, is kind of still always kind of behind.
Well, that's what I was gonna. This sort almost kind of segues into. Sure, you have teachers. Um, the good teachers that like your like industrial people like are teachers who just teach concepts and get you to graduate. The great teachers, from a student's perspective, the greatest teachers are the ones who push, poke, and prod you to ask questions and to think, right? And
Yeah,
there's a big disconnect between the student's view of a good teacher and society or like the economy's view
yeah,
of a good teacher. Does that make sense?
yeah. Well, even with society, I think it's like a teacher that just shuts up and does the job for 40,000 is a good teacher, right? Because what you have by underpaying so many teachers, you've actually created a big problem because you don't have enough teachers. And when you don't have enough teachers because you're not paying them enough, you have a lot of students and they're whoever, like it's similar to the nursing problem, right? Like they have to do the job. They will still have to do the job. Like a nurse won't just walk out and like leave a person like bleeding and dying, right? Even if she's underpaid and overworked. And so a teacher does the exact same thing, is that they have to do the service because it's an essential service. It's an essential service. Like, it's not like being a waiter, let's say, where they'll just like give up and then like, oh, like God forbid, you have to go get your own food. But with a teacher, they're going to keep doing it. But since you've strained the system so much, since they strain the system so much, and it strains on them. It causes you don't necessarily want stressed out teachers to be teaching kids. Like, and so so then now you have another question. So, okay, all right, let's say, all right, I agree with you, Waseem. We agree. We got to pay the teachers more. I agree with you, Bernie. We got to pay the teachers more, right? Good idea,
Yeah,
Bernie.
as usual.
Yeah. Where are you gonna? So what about the money? Where's it gonna come from? Because it either comes from an increase in tax. It either comes from a cut somewhere else, cuts from somewhere else. Additionally, I mean, okay, look, this is very interesting. So even with teachers, like when you look at teachers, like teachers have to go to like a college to learn how to teach, and this is all as a cost to the teacher. The teacher has to like pick up the tab, and they got like this is part of their career, like any other like career. They have to pick up their own educational tab, and then ultimately they get the job so they can do it. And of course, that when they do the math, they're like, "Oh, this sucks. I'm not going to do this," and then they don't do it anymore, right? And so you have a few questions. I think on the one you have these kind of like a gatekeeper of who can teach, which actually like stops the flow of teachers coming of prospective new teachers coming into the system, and maybe even with fresh and new ideas, because once you have this filter that like you have to conform to the standards of education that us as the Ministry of Education or the Department of Education have decided are the standards. What that does is that it kind of creates it selects for conformity and not necessarily for creativity. And when I'm talking about schooling, I'm talking about a changing economy, a creative economy, like creative demands. I don't necessarily need this. There's only one answer, and it's at the back of the book to any question. I need divergent thinking. I need interest-based learning. I need more time where the teacher is not instructing, but the teacher is guiding, is being is helping the student kind of be the driver of their own learning. This is very ideal and lovely.
That's
Yeah.
you extract it out of them. The great teachers
Yes.
extract it out of their
Yeah.
students. They don't push it onto them, right?
Yeah.
They like it's you have the power.
Well,
I'm just here.
and even now,
thing.
if you want instruction, you can just go on YouTube and watch videos and get instruction. If you want instruction, you can read. Like you have unlimited amounts of access to information that is unprecedented in history. And so the teacher being simply an instructor, or Paulo Freire calls it the banking model of education. So the idea is that students come into school and they have they're an empty account, and the teacher is the banker, and he's filling their empty accounts. And he says that this is horrible, and it doesn't take into account that students aren't empty accounts. People aren't empty accounts. They're young people, and they have their own ideas and their own agency. And so the relationship between the teacher and the student must evolve. Instead of being a top down, the teacher is above the student and is gracefully filling their account with information. It's more of a relationship where the teacher is also a student to the student, because the teacher is learning through the relationship with the student how to be a better teacher, but also how to be a student by learning about what the way the student sees things. And the student as well, the student is being poked and prodded in order to ask questions that they may not have crossed their mind, which expands their mind and their worldview and increases their capacity for creativity in a world where instruction is, like, the cost of instruction is free. Like, it's free. You can just get your instruction anywhere you want.
Well, then with this instruction is free part, I want to go back to another thing you mentioned about the value-based pricing for teachers. If I'm being really, like, let's just talk this through for a second. On one hand, you're telling me the best teachers, I can get the best information for free. So why should I pay a minimum wage to teachers? Because it actually seems that their job is less now. Like, the student can literally on their phone get the best teachers. So why should I pay them a minimum wage of 60K? Is that, like, do you get my argument?
Yes, I understand.
Discussion point. It's just
I know.
discussion.
I understand, and that's an excellent point. And it leads to the question of what is the role of the teacher. So is the teacher a creative job, or is it a industrial, like, place information here? Like, is it just like, am I just pushing them through, trying to, like, wrap packets of information neatly and place it inside them so that they can pass standardized tests, and then we can be done with this?
The best professor I ever had smashed that notion entirely. I went up to him and I told him, I'm going to be late on an essay. I'm going to need 1 or 2 more days on it, and I'll accept whatever penalty there is. And he looks at me, he's like, penalty? Yellow card, red card? Is this football? This is education. Take 1, 2, take a week if you have to. But please, like, be honest about it. And in that week, make sure you, like, up that quality. And that changed my perspective immediately. It's like, it was so liberating to have somebody just, like, look, you're here to learn. So I want you to actually, and I, like, sat down and I wrote that essay properly, and I gave it, 1 day later something. It wasn't that bad, and it was just so nice and respectful, and, like, this is how it should be. Why is it like that?
Yeah.
Why is it always rules and deadlines and failure and pass and grades and categorization and division? Why can't it be like this, where it's like, hey, look, you need to read this book, you have to do the work, do it within a reasonable amount of time.
Well, yeah. And starting with why, right? Like, I mean, that's literally like every business, right? Like the Simon Sinek, right? Like Simon Sinek, right? Why? Start with why. Like, why are you supposed to do this work? And and this is kind of the problem where education fails, or the system of education fails, is because we don't talk about why. Like we do, like, why are you even here? And also because the why sucks, because the why is like so that you can become a consumer and so that you can become a good worker, and that's a shitty why.
Well, yeah, I was thinking about this randomly. This isn't the teachers, but this is about school. Like, why do we do exams? Why do we do tests? the purpose, the educational, the logical is to learn concepts. It's not to pass judgment on a student.
Yeah.
Grades are not there's tests and exams are meant to just test your concept understanding. They're not meant to pass judgment. So I don't know. This
Well,
just goes into sort of the why. Like, why do we do tests?
but
And
even with like let's say like why do we race? So like take away the intellectual side. Let's make it like the physical side. So why do we race each other? Like or why do I race myself? Where like I'm trying to beat my time in a run, right? Like I'm trying to beat my time. Why am I trying to beat my time? I'm trying to go faster. What am I trying to do better? Because I'm trying to be better today than I was yesterday. And so what a test can do in its most like let's say ideal form is that it gives you a marker of where you're at and so you can see improvement. And that is very motivating to continue to improve because when you see, all right, let's say I do all the tests at the beginning of the year, the first day, and then kind of take away one of the problems is I feel like in Eastern cultures, even way more than in Western cultures, and probably has to do with more about like sort of coming from poverty or coming from because like tests and how you do and getting into university is all a indicator of your your ability to bring in income later. And if you don't go to these particular schools or if you don't go to this thing and you don't get in, you're going to be in real big trouble. And you're just basically a failure. And I think we have to kind of rejig that, right? Because it's not, I mean, there's just so many like heavy assumptions in terms of, like I said, the gatekeeper of education. And it starts at the teacher training. Like it starts right at the beginning where there is a sort of an a priori, this is what's the right way. And everyone must conform to that way. And so there's no room for the diversity of kids and the diversity of people and how like some people are more mechanical in their thinking. Some people are more creative. And if you take a creative person and a mechanical person, you need them actually to work together in order to produce something of like that can account for the weaknesses of both ideas, but can build on the strengths of both people. So schools are a place where kids learn how to work together. And so even tests are strange because you have to sit by yourself and do them. And there's nowhere else in the future that you ever actually have to sit down by yourself and do something. like
without a calculator, without the internet, without the computer, without sharing Google,
without others, without even bouncing the idea. Like we're having a conversation right now. We could not do this without you or me here. Right? Like I can't think these thoughts if I'm not sitting having a discussion with you and having a talk with you. So I need you to be there, and I need to be good at listening to you so that I can allow you to speak, and hopefully good at putting together a project with you and putting together something with you and playing my role in the team and in the group. So it's funny that the things that are the stalwarts of, because before you didn't need that. You needed me to be able to put the cog onto the gear, or to put that's what you needed me to do. And I didn't need friends to do this. I just needed to do it myself. But as this has changed, I feel like the gatekeepers of education are slow to change, and I feel like you can't take this conversation away from just pay. Like that's why it's a complicated thing. Like fundamentally, they should be paid more, of course, but also we need to adjust how the whole thing is working, so that we don't have bloated administration, so that we have we make more room in schools for the variety of kids that exist, and the way that they do, and so we can make better. We can help make better people and make a better future and make a better society. And like these are all very ideal, lovely, wonderful things. And so when you come to me and you tell me, no, I don't want to pay them an extra 10,000 or 20,000, you go, man, oh wow, so this is like, well, oh, okay. Like you just like so the future doesn't matter that much to you. Like it just begins to fall apart. You go, okay, wow, all right, well, and it seems like it's people that once they've made it across, there are some people that pull the ladder out behind them so that nobody else can come up. It seems like that tendency to exist can is seems to be in the middle of that discussion when it comes to like young people and pay and like I mean this all sounds very idealistic, but I've spent a lot of time thinking about this. Like
The really messed up part is that these are the same places that will have no problem giving some company that's going to open a warehouse or a factory tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars in tax breaks. Or if
oh
a
yeah,
sports team is going to open a stadium, they have no problem now opening the wallets.
man,
But if
yeah,
it's teachers asking for an extra $10 or 10,000, 20,000 bucks, suddenly, we
yeah.
need to tighten we're actually
Yeah,
firing people.
yeah.
We're
If
not
it's
hiring
teachers,
people.
yeah, if it's and like I understand that the largest cost on a school will be the salaries, the teachers. But like, what do you not have them? Like how I got an idea. Let's put a robot in the machine in the room. Maybe they can just watch YouTube all day. Like maybe that'll be better, right? Like it's just like nobody will ever argue that standards should go down. Like no one would ever say that no, we shouldn't have high standards. Like no, that's not where the argument is about. I think the nuance is in figuring out what barriers to entry there are for teachers currently, because there is a shortage of teachers. What supports are available for them to actually do their job, because there's a disconnect between uh, the ministry or the Department of Education, where there are no students. There's a disconnect between the Department of Education, where not a single student walks in, and they are putting rules down and standards for teachers where they're actually seeing the students every day. And so I think the power of organization of career needs to move from the Department of Education, and you should literally be cutting that department in favor of getting more money to teachers so that they can chill, getting more resources to teachers so they can chill and actually do the job, which involves being in interaction with the students and not processing them through the grades so they can. I mean, how many people in the States, they graduate, they can't read. They can't read because you just got to keep it
They
moving.
Bush had that like you can't fail them policy. There was
Yeah.
some famous
Well, and even
policy.
the whole all of this virtual school thing, like where they did like as a result of like it really they just was like okay whatever. I mean, I'm telling you, we're gonna feel this in a few years when you'll have like I mean, and you do. There's like 3 years of kids not going to school, not socializing, and then they come out and now like go and be in offices, like not be in offices, right? Or go and work. And why is everybody so awkward? Because they haven't had any practice. They haven't tried anything out. And and we just told them to sit at home. Why are they always on their video games? Why are they always like how come their best friend is someone they play Call of Duty with?
Converted, like they're full time at home. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So like it's bonkers. like like it's just bonkers.
It is. I'm glad you said that because that was my thing when I just started thinking about these teachers with the Reddit post, going back full
Yeah.
circle. Just seeing what the teacher has to deal with on a daily basis and then reading that they don't even make 60K was just
And they want to arm them in
things combined.
Florida. The solution was like oh, how do we do with all these shootings? Well, you know what? Give them some guns, and then you go, man, you don't pay me enough to need a gun at work. like dude, and then like why is there a shortage? And why are all the standards going down? Why are all our kids awkward? Why is it like, why are we having a population crisis? Why, like, all of these, why can't anybody think? Why now when you go to universities, like they literally like shout out visiting speakers that they disagree with. And like, and this is, man, this is actually yesterday on the news. I heard in one of the schools in, I think was it in one of the M states, there was the students were protesting a new bathroom policy. So the student, like a big student body came out and was like, because I mean, this is what I imagine is the situation. It was because like they got 3 stalls, they got like 10 stalls in the women's bathroom and 3 stalls in the men's bathroom. And they're making it so that this was what they said they were protesting, was that the removal of the urinals. Because the urinals, make it so they covered up the urinals, and then everybody can change inside the stalls and nobody changes outside stalls. And so we're done with urinals. And the boys are like, man, why you take away our urinals? Like, and then so this, and then you know how long it's gonna take if all of us got to change on 3 stalls, and like, and it's like a band-aid. And so I feel like when you do all these things, even without putting consultation to the students, like when you're making these changes to accommodate, 1% or 0.5% or 2% of the student body, like sweeping changes, it seems like the adults have left the room. And who's left are the leftovers that put up with low wages, that put up with, like, that have no other choice. And the last thing you want in an education system are people that have no other choice. Like this should be
as the
calling.
teachers. You want them
Yes.
as the student. You want them as you desperately want them as the students, and you want the other people as the teachers. Yes, 100%.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even the students have a choice. They could drop out and go and like go get a job, and then realize, oh, you know what? I'm probably gonna need something. I need to like up my skills. Like if I want to not do, because like what are you qualified to do when you're like 14 or 15? Like,
well, that's the thing though. These days it's changed, right? Like you can, man, we have 7-year-old kids who can teach us TikTok, how to make money off TikTok, man, bro. I'm not even joking, right?
Well, still, I think there's like certain leadership qualities and self-sufficiencies like required. But also, I mean, hell, maybe that's the argument that they're making in, like, I think Tennessee. Is it Tennessee? Two states are introducing new, like, to lower the child like labor age. So they want it so that you could work if you're like 14 in certain industries.
Hey, how are you going to compete with China?
Well, I mean, but there's your argument, like, that this kid's never going to be good at school. Some kids are just going to be like labor, like they need to go. But I think whenever it comes to kids and it comes to education, it's such a laden discussion. It's so heavy because what we're actually talking about is what we want our society to look like tomorrow. And to get consensus, to actually have that discussion it's a dark one, because it brings to light all of these issues that we have now. So like, in the like all of the issues that we currently have that are, even though it's better now than it was yesterday, it seems like like an example, like they just want to take us back to yesterday because we were more obedient than but I mean, these are novel times, right? Like it just doesn't, like, I'm not, the kids can work, sure, but once you rely on children to be the labor force, you're in trouble, dude. Like, dude, like I don't know if this is a good solution.
Yeah. Well, once your teachers are not paid 60K and you're now thinking about arming them and you're also decreasing their audience size, right?
Yeah.
If students,
Well, that's what,
like if
yeah.
there's less students in the crowd, like if there's less students in
Then
the
they can just go
audience,
work. And then
and
also,
they're gonna go be working. So
and
like,
even the way funding works in education in the States, at least, because of public schools and it's tied to like the neighborhood, you have such a wide variety of like so certain neighborhoods they make, and that is really unfair. Like it's really creates a lot of, because now as a teacher, I'm gonna want to go to the well-funded school where I don't have to go buy pencils for the kids. I want to go to the one where all the kids are kind of from like, not so difficult families. Like they're gonna have their own problems, but at least like, and then actually there's this interesting study that I was like a study that I noted that in one society they took in one society, in one city or town or neighborhood, they took prisoners out of prison and like let them live in like the neighborhood, and it caused less crime. Like the crime rates went down because having these older like these men be like, don't make the same mistake I did. Like don't make the same, and like being role models in that sense to younger generations in the neighborhood was better than not having them in the neighborhood in terms of reducing crime and reducing like, I mean, even man, Toronto now, like it's like gangs of teens like slashing people and like beating people up on the like boys and girls on the streetcars and on the metro, gangs
yeah, the like TTC, the subway, there was an article about like there's a like
every
epidemic
day.
in Toronto about like people doing just weird
Man, you
like
just lock them
violent.
up for like 3 years, and then and they're and I honestly feel like they're toying with us. Like I feel like politicians are actually toying with us because they gaslight so often now, and I feel like they want education. Like it seems like they want education to collapse because then they can get away with it. Because then nobody is left smart enough to even know that they're being gaslit. It's like, the corruption. It's just, and you never. I feel like, I mean, not that it was always like this, but I feel like there was a time where it wasn't like this, right? Like where there was some honor.
This is good. This is you're gonna get into some hot water here with the way you're speaking. Like I agree, bro. Look, no, look, statistically speaking, the whole CEO to like normal worker pay, there was a time in the graph where it was closer to one, and now it's like 350 to one. So there was a time when normal people and like the uber rich were not as the income inequality was not as great, but now uh, like everyone keeps saying there's money in the economy, companies keep posting record profits, but the teacher doesn't have pencils and pens.
Yeah,
And we're talking pencils and pens when we should be talking tablets and like crazy technological things in classrooms, right? Like the first place that like these technological advances and toys should go is classrooms, not with the like uppity rich folk, right? It is
yeah.
classrooms where like the kids can play around with it and figure things out and innovate the next level.
Yeah, and tinker and figure it out and practice how to behave in society, practice how to behave with others, how to deal with strangers, how to deal with people that aren't in your family, that you don't know, how to work with them, how to get over differences, how to behave, how to behave. And but like when the I mean, this is our probably the problem is that we've made politicians the leaders of our societies, and this is and the like to be successful in politics you have to have the qualities that are antithesis to being a leader of society. Like you can't be a politician, you can't be a successful politician and be good for society. Yeah, you can't. You can be a good, like you can't. because you have to do things, you have to sell things out, you have to like do things. And I mean, even to now, right to now, I mean, we have our latest scandal in Toronto is our mayor after having just won a third term, comes out and he and is says he is going to resign due to having an affair with a worker in his office for like 2 or 3 years. So he got caught and with a young woman, and I think he said, this is not of the office and I'm going to resign. And so we're like a week later and he still hasn't resigned, and they're kind of playing the game of like, well, like, do I really have to resign?
Yeah. So like this 1 week of his salary, we couldn't have just given it to like the teacher of the month.
Well, I mean, he's also working on the budget this time. And so these guys, like, I mean, I think education is argued on a provincial level, but that guy, maybe he should. So the week before that, he threw a stag party for his daughter, and invited all the like construction guys who came with bags of money because the gifts. And is this not dirty? And then when you ask him, he says, I'm getting sick of these questions. And when they asked him, he's like, oh, these are stupid questions. I'm getting sick of them. And you go, yeah, but dude, you don't see how this is a problem? If you don't see, like, you don't see how this is the status quo, like what you're doing here. Oh, no, of course not. And then at the same time, well, how about you give that money to the teachers? Huh? How would you do that instead of just stockpiling it for yourself, you and your cronies? Right? And just because you got your name and you can, I mean, in the States, you can like cut up a district so that you can make sure that you can win. And they truly just undermine like any democracy by just gaslighting people to the way that they're fed up. They're absolutely fed up. They're fed up with these people. But so they don't even look. They think it's hopeless. And you go to your little life and you deal with your own little thing until you get slashed for like just walking around. Right? Like we have to realize, I think, that we are all on this ship. Like we are all like, we're in this together, people. Like that there's your third culture thing, right? Like, and then more and more you see that we're all in this together. There's no throwing someone off the boat. And until we get them, we have to, like, when you're talking about paying teachers more, you're also talking about getting the money out of politics. Because there's a connection there. You're talking about these things. And that's why these are such like hard discussions. And that's why I agree with you, Bernie. And Bernie will also say, like, let's get the money out of politics.
It's not just teachers, right? That's the sad reality. It's not just teachers who are not getting their value-based income. Nurses are another major example.
Yeah, they're another service industry. Like a highly skilled service job that just gets screwed. It's a highly skilled service job.
Over and over again. Like the nurses union.
Because you know they're not going to stop.
Bending over and saying, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
There's too much care in them. That's like they care too much. You know, in the interview, what's your greatest weakness? I care too much. That's nurses.
Yeah.
Teachers. Like the teachers need to just strike.
And it's just causing a great collapse. And what these politicians are saying is that, great, let it collapse because the private sector will pay more and it will do right by the nurses. And you're like, since when? Since when? Like I'll show you another private sector, like the Microsoft is a private sector as well company. Apple is like, and they all let everybody off. Like, Like what'll happen when there's another downturn and they have to get rid of all the nurses and teachers? And it's not a simple matter as turning on and off the faucet with them. These are highly skilled jobs. It makes me very angry. I don't know if it's coming out in my voice, but it makes me very angry because I care. Because I care. I have kids, and not only do like which makes me care even more, because even in my kids, it's not just kids. It's kids. Like I said this. Like as soon as you become a parent, you see the child in everybody. You see how you feel a responsibility towards absolutely everyone, because there's no separating your child from the environment that they live in and the world that they live in. Right? Like I want the world to be great for them too, and I want them to be great for the world. And so I can't separate. I can't be like, oh, I'll just work on the kid and forget the world. I can't do that because it doesn't make any sense. I'm just fixing like I'm fixing. You can't fix one half of a seesaw. You need both sides to be working to find balance in life. I think on that note, let's go find some balance in our life. uh, Thanks for listening. I hope you gained something from this, and good talking to you, Maj.
Yeah, yeah. Carpe diem, Captain, my captain. Carpe diem. See you
Have a
good day.
peace, peace.